why do you think there's such a huge disdain from Liverpool to Man U fans, actually?
The negative stuff starts with me, is it? Okay.
We might be another part of your alleged club as well, sooner or later.
I mean, if you're found guilty, I'm still going to support City.
I never thought a Chelsea fan would end the season on a high note.
If someone came in with a £100 million offer for Bruno G, I would say, please, he's all yours.
What Klopp has done for football, what Klopp has done for the Premier League, and what Klopp has done for that city is immeasurable.
Do we want him to stay?
We have all done silly things for football. Give me a yes.
Every league needs a team to hate. And I feel Manchester United is a team to hate.
Does the Premier League need a successful Manchester United?
I don't care. We don't need a successful United team.
Wow, and just like that, the final whistle has blown on another English Premier League season, and once again, it was Manchester City who reigned supreme. To mark the end of this pulsating campaign, here's an overlap, local style. It's the Straits Times Hard Tackle.
And Money FM 89.3 Sports Minutes coming together to host a very special fans debate. I'm Zia-ul Raushan.
And I'm Deepanraj Ganesan.
Now, from City's dominance to Arsenal's brilliance, Klopp's farewell gone wrong, or did it go wrong? Spurs proving there is life without Harry Kane, and Villa showing there are no slip-ups without Steven Gerrard. All right, Liverpool fans, sorry I got carried away.
And of course, Raushan, we can't forget Chelsea's topsy-turvy season, Saudi Arabia's Newcastle, Eddie Howe's mighty Magpies. And while one bald man rejoices in Manchester, the other is feeling the blues.
All right, Deepan. No need for tears just yet. We, of course, have plenty to get stuck into as we review the season, and we'll be doing that in the company of some familiar faces and not so familiar faces, all united in their love for Premier League football.
Raushan, you say familiar face. I'll go a step further to say we have got someone in the studio who was the face of the English Premier League, at least when it came to coverage in Singapore and rest of Asia. John Dykes, welcome to the Hard Tackle. I'm going to start with you. It's a fantastic season for most parts. You know, what will you best remember the season for?
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get to that, thanks for having me. It's great to be here and great to be amongst the fans. This is very different from me. A couple of things here. Firstly, I don't think I ever managed to offend as many fans in one introduction as you guys just did. Brilliant stuff. Lovely start. I'm sitting here with my characteristically neutral jacket on and my neutral position. But no, I mean, I've sat and watched this last season as I have the last few seasons as a fan. I thought we were on the verge of the best ever title race. You know, I think the differential points-wise between whoever was the top two throughout the season was only about 1.5, which is amazing. And in the end, it turned out not to be that way. And in the end, it'll be remembered for the goals, I think. Crazy number of goals, breaking the record for average goals per game. So I think for me, you know, we'll get on to Manchester City. We'll spend a lot of time on Manchester City, I'm sure. Clearly, history made in that regard. But no, when I look back on it, it's a case of what might have been and also just lots of goals.
Exactly.
John, the hard tackles are only just getting started, so buckle up for a good ride. Before we deliver more hard tackles, we're going to give away some gifts to put some smiles on some faces. We've got some jerseys to give away, given to us by the good people at Western Corp, who've also decked out our set. We've got 3 kits to give away, 2 of which are for all you fans, 1 of which is for those of you watching us on YouTube. So stick around to find out how you can win that 3rd kit. But first, Deepan, first question.
All right, first question. Fans in the studio, are you guys ready? All you have to do is raise your hand if you know the answer, and the mic will come to you and you just shoot it away. The first question is fairly simple, I think, if you've been watching the English Premier League or you've been catching up on the news, courtesy of the Straits Times, hopefully. And the question is, who has hit the woodwork the most in the English Premier League this season? I'll go to you, Imran, first.
It's from my team, Darwin Núñez.
And that's correct. Darwin Núñez has hit the post the most in the Premier League this season.
Is that
Congratulations,
something to be
Imran.
proud of?
Definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, is it really a surprise that it was Darwin Núñez? Imran, we'll come to that in a short while. Congratulations on winning the first giveaway of the day. But there's only one place to start, and that's right at the top. In the blue corner, we have Haizam Shah, who's loud and proud in his blue kit today. Haizam, firstly, recovered from the celebrations?
Not yet. I can see my voice. I'm still struggling to kind of speak out.
I thought you just had a husky, beautiful voice. But
I wish.
You know what I love? I love the fact that he's wearing an old kit just to show to people that Manchester City existed way before this current era.
No, there's no question that Manchester City existed. I'm just surprised the fans existed before that. Now, Haizam.
No, for context, we only have 6 fans.
Okay. And thankfully,
In Singapore.
and thankfully, we have one of them here. Haizam has been supporting Manchester City since 1998. Yet, would you believe he missed the most iconic moment of Manchester City's history, which is the Aguero moment. Haizam, why and how did you miss it?
I got married on the day at Aguero. Okay, here's
What's the excuse?
Okay, so here's... Damn. The roasting as well. Okay, so what happened, like I got married, I never expected it's going to be the last day of the season. So my wife was a United fan. So one of the requirements was that I'm not going to allow you to watch the game. Okay, Malay wedding, you're going to be so tired by all that. So, okay, you know what, I just said, okay, I'm just going to listen to my wife. First rule as a husband, not watch the game, go to sleep. Next thing I know, I woke up the next day, my phone was blowing up. Then I was like, what's happening? And turns out like City won, Aguero, Fergie time 3-2. I was like, damn, I missed the biggest game of my life. But then again, I mean, it's my calling card, whenever people say, like, as a City fan since 98, like, City has given me the best wedding gift a City fan has been for the longest time. So, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it, man.
As a member of the Married Men Union as well, well done on listening to your wife on that one. Yes. But lucky for you, City have given you plenty to celebrate since then, especially the title yesterday. What a season it's been. How much have you enjoyed it?
Crazy, man, crazy season. Because I never expect, okay, for me personally, I hate Super Sunday title run-ins like yesterday, and especially last season, same thing, 3-2. So I always feel pressure that, I do not want to jinx it, asking people like, what's going to be the result? And when people come up to me saying that, City is going to win it, I said, no. As a long-suffering fan, I don't believe in that rubbish, like, until Fat Lady sings, we're going to see the result. So yesterday was quite a slightly less stressful moment. Because I think when City scored, then Arsenal was still trying to find the first goal. So I think it was kind enough safe until, 1-1 and then that handball thing. So yesterday was better than the past few seasons, being a City supporter.
It was typical City. You ruined it for everybody else. Yes. And what I mean by that, is all of the neutrals, everybody who was throwing parties and watch-alongs and that was hoping, and I thought maybe Arsenal would score early, and then City, as they always do, would just get into a groove and score a bit later, and you'd maintain the tension. How many seconds did it take Foden to score? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, done. But that sums up City. Yeah. Utterly dominant.
Yeah. I'm just keen to find out, when we came into the season, we came on the back of City winning the treble. Some said that it will be hard to replicate it. And of course, City have got the Premier League, maybe an FA Cup to still come. But did you expect them to be as dominant this season compared to last year?
Okay, based on the amount of money we spend, I think the pressure has always been there. Like, you how do you top it up? And I think when City fans will expect that, why not we do something, back-to-back treble? I mean, anyone can dream. But then again, coming back into that situation where everyone knows that it's going to be tough to even challenge that. I mean, for me personally, it's still a good season. Yeah, granted, we couldn't do the back-to-back treble. It's still a good season.
Look at these other fans around here.
It's still a good season. It's still a good season.
You're just casually passing off something that everyone else here would wait a whole lifetime to do, that no one's done before. Right? Okay, here's a quiz. I haven't got any prizes to give away. When was the last time City lost a game in any competition?
45 matches ago.
45 matches.
December the 7th.
Okay, close.
That's how insane it is, right? There you go.
So I think that's the thing. Because you see, if, let's say, come to the situation where Pep spends so much and then City is not doing well, questions is going to be asked for him. And then, the banter of Guardiola and all that. So I think that expectations is, I would say, expected. Like you spend so much, you strengthen the team. You need to maintain that momentum of winning.
I thought you were talking about something entirely different.
Yeah, when you mentioned Guardiola, what came to my mind was a number. Whether it's 115 or whatever you had, 116.
116 because we won back-to-back 4 times Premier League. Then next week, 116, 117.
Yeah, but I have to ask, seriously though, I mean, one thing that people might take away from Manchester City is the fact that these charges are still in the air. It's not been decided. We are not sure when it will be decided. Does that affect you as a fan to hear people and say, your titles are not clean?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you're found guilty, I'm still going to still support City. I mean, I can't say much for the others. But in the fact, for me, having the Aguero moment winning the treble, getting into banters, people saying that City has not won the Champions League until last season. I'm just going to take it. If 115 is going to be the downfall, so be it. Then you will see the true fans that's going to... And I've been there for the longest time. I've been there when supporting City and people was like, why you support City? You know, and every season looking at staying 40 points, being safe.
Yeah.
This is golden. This is the golden era for City fans. So I'm not gonna be bothered with the 115, 116, 117 charges and go so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, as a City fan myself, I mean these are the golden era for City fans. And I'm just gonna give it as it is.
Fantastic.
No, you have to respect that, right? Yeah. Now, speaking of waiting a lifetime, the man there dressed in yellow today has been waiting a lifetime. He thought that 20-year wait would end. But Eddie, unfortunately, to bring you in not so great circumstances, commiserations on how it panned out, but I'm sure you enjoyed the ride.
Still immensely proud, really enjoyed the ride. Son Heung-min, I'll get to abuse you next month when you come to Singapore in person. Because you had the title in your hands, but you know, you let it slip. Typical Spurs mentality, but I guess. sorry. Yeah.
Nitin.
He's in striking distance, but yeah. I'm trusting that Nitin's a nice guy, so.
We cross over to North London for the Spurs view.
Hi everyone, just want to interject. He said we lost them the league, but it in fact was in their hands and they didn't get the result, so just wanted to clear that up.
I love this. This is fan 101. And you've just had an amazing season to follow a previous amazing season, but all you're left with is lashing out at the rivals. Can I just jump in and say that I went on the record a few weeks ago saying I really hope that Arsenal would win it. And the reason I think you have to show faith in this, and also you have to be very careful. You're both journalistically trained, right? It's not 115 charges for City. It's alleged breaches, 115 alleged breaches. It's not the same as what happened with Forest and Everton. And it's everyone watching, sorry being serious here, go and read up properly on what this whole thing is, because it's not exactly as simple and cut and dry as 115 charges against them. So there you go. But I think Arsenal had a model that really excited me. Trust the process. Appoint a manager, stick with a manager, play with a certain beautiful style, which is, whenever you see the team play, you know it's Arsenal playing. And I think that's beautiful, because that gives hope to everybody else. Still got to get past these guys, but it gives hope that, you don't have to have all the money in the world. You don't have to have Pep Guardiola. You could challenge and maybe win the Premier League. And I think that's why it was really important that Arsenal came close.
I think the fans really felt the connection as well, because I think some years back, we would always be battered by Liverpool. Year after year, we'd be battered by Liverpool. And what I saw from the Liverpool players wasn't necessarily that all of them were individually better, but they ran their socks off. And that's something that Arsenal fans weren't really used to seeing. But now, if you look at the Arteta teams that they set out, right, everybody runs. Trossard was making tackles. Saka runs back all the time. So sometimes they look a bit tired, but I don't blame them. They really run their socks off, and that's what I think gets the fans on board. The atmosphere in the stadium seems much better now as well. I think Arteta has a real good grasp of how to get the fans on board.
And they got Kai Havertz playing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was something. I didn't see that happening. Did you?
Also, I actually went on a show on Money FM actually earlier this season, and I said Kai Havertz would be the surprise of the season. So, not bragging, but yeah.
Just also want to touch on what you said about Arsenal there. I think at the end of last season, most fans, not from the Arsenal persuasion, of course, said it's just a one-season thing. They won't come back. And of course, you guys got Declan Rice, and then more people started to believe that this will be an Arsenal side that might challenge. What about next season now? Do you think that Arsenal kick on and finally get their hands on the title?
I think we'll be there or thereabouts. It'll be the same. I think we'll be fighting the consistency of Man City as well. So, I mean, leaving the 115 breaches aside, right? You have to really give credit. Alleged breaches. Yes. You have to really give credit to the players and the staff, because I mean, they are not really involved in these breaches, hopefully. Alleged breaches.
Eddie,
sorry, what have I done here? Yeah. But that was a great question, and that was a great answer, because they have a pattern of play, and we've seen it now over a period of time, that would suggest that it would take something unusual for them not to be good next season. And that's a great position to be in. And if you're a club, if you're a Spurs, or you're a Chelsea, or someone who I think is comparable in terms of resources, you should be looking at Arsenal going, that's the way to go.
But my question to Eddie then is, at what point is progress not enough? Do you need tangible success to prove that there is actual progress? Because we can see Arteta has been back to the hill, but at some point he needs to deliver silverware, because you can't keep finishing bridesmaid, right?
There's always that KPI guy, right? We have it here.
Well,
Well, in Singapore,
Money
yes.
FM 89.3.
I think the KPI is actually in terms of points, so that's one measurable yardstick of success, right? But you're absolutely right about the cups, and actually I think for me the disappointment this season was not finishing behind Man City as much as it was the limp way we bowed out of the Champions League. Actually, I felt that was there for the taking, and you know, if you go to the final, the semi-final, actually anything can happen. So I felt that was a much better chance of silverware. When you're going up against a giant like Man City, then the consistency is always going to win out. And I fear that maybe we don't have that bit of experience. For example, I think small games like not small games, but small points of the season, like our game against Aston Villa, we were hitting a brick wall. Villa were defending very well. And I think Declan Rice himself said, like, we need to be mature and know that if you're not getting the 1-0 goal, the 2-0 goal, 0-0 is not the end of the world. But instead, they went like all the way, and you know, they left themselves a bit open at the back. And
In all accounts, it wasn't a good evening for you, I guess.
oh yeah, it was not. It was not. But it's nice to see Emery doing well, though. I mean,
Yeah,
Of course.
100%.
And of course, plenty of star performers this season. Arsenal, we mentioned Declan Rice as well. But ultimately, it was Phil Foden who won the Player of the Season. What do our fans think? Any strong objections to Phil Foden winning it?
Kelvin?
Personally, I think you should have gone to Cole Palmer. Because you put
Surprise.
Phil Foden in a team where everyone's playing well, everyone can support you and you can run with it, right? So you have that support and that class across, and you are kind of embedded in that team already. Whereas Cole Palmer coming to Chelsea, all the issues, the club, the formations, the changes, the injuries, he has been that one constant player that has delivered time and time again. Maybe not goals, but assists as well, right? And even his tracking back, his running, he kind of took on that mantle as Mr. Chelsea, quote unquote, and ran with it. So to me, I would give it to Cole Palmer.
I'm obviously biased, but I would say Ollie Watkins. I mean, 19 goals, 13 assists, not a single penalty taken amongst those. And I mean, he was our player of the season. But I mean, Palmer, I definitely hear as a shout. But I think Ollie Watkins had a big claim this season as well.
I think they both started yesterday on 32 goal involvements,
Wow.
right? And I would have had them in there. And I was thinking about this last night. I also love Odegaard. I just think Odegaard just is aesthetically. I just love the way he plays. But I was going to go with Palmer because, tell me, did you see that happening? Did you see that coming? No way did you see that coming, right? But then Foden scoring the goal he did, the way he did in the game that was going to win them the league, you can't overlook that. I don't think. And I don't think it is overlooked.
I'm fine with Phil Foden taking the trophy, as well as Cole Palmer. But I felt that Rodri deserved at least a nomination, at least. Because, you know, Man City dropped points when he wasn't in the game. When Pep Guardiola also said in his pressers that how crucial and always goes the clutch goals. And like he did it last night as well. That third goal was really crucial. So I think he deserved at least a nomination. If not, he could have even won it. Yeah, that's my view.
But it's a case of something that I know a lot about, unfashionable, right? Yeah, the player in that role doesn't win it, does he?
Yeah.
Right? Are we being too nice here?
No.
Is it
I mean,
too nice?
if you look at it
Yeah.
this season, So if you look at this season, we have a lot of players that could go for Player of the Season, you know, like Cole Palmer, you know, like Ollie Watkins for the matter, you know. But here's the thing, like what John was saying, he's not fashionable, you know. Rodri for me is really the key player. But then again, he does the job. He's the workhorse. You know, he doesn't give that flair like Cole Palmer. You know, he brings that entertainment to Chelsea, where Chelsea is so erratic this season, topsy-turvy. So he's definitely in for a shout. If you look at it, we are spoiled for choice for this season, and I think as fans, what we can do is just enjoy the process. Like we had the workhorses and we have the flair players. So it's really going to be very difficult to choose. Like anyone can say that Cole Palmer deserves it, anyone can say Phil Foden can deserve it. But then this argument will just be ongoing until the new season comes.
We talked about star performers, and of course, for balance, we've got to talk about the flops of the season. A word that I don't like to use, but we have to say. Who do you think stood out as some flops of the season? I think, Fauzi, you're looking at me. I feel like you have a name in mind. You know,
So many people. Suddenly, so many microphones.
Fauzi is all the craze.
The negative stuff starts with me, is it? Okay.
Don't worry, we've still got Rishi over here.
As a Manchester United fan, I think all Manchester United fans will feel that Rashford didn't hit the mark this season at all. I think his body language told a lot of, told it off. I don't know what's wrong. Nobody can know what's wrong. I think it's some mental health thingy. But to see his performance last season and this season, the jarring difference, it's quite worrying. And like, we're now at the stage where, like, okay, he's at that age where he's supposed to be at the peak of his career. And I think we have to see whether is it time for him to move on, or is it time for him? It depends whether Ten Hag stays, actually. Because right now, I think as a fan also, we also are not sure whether Ten Hag will actually stay, even after if they win the cup. If we will win the cup. Yes.
Why? Confidence?
Sorry.
Bro, we don't have any other choice.
The deal is being made right here.
No Europe, no anything.
This is the only chance we have. But anyway, yeah. So, but it's good to see the other players now slowly coming back. I think Sofian Amrabat is also performing really, really well throughout this peak end of the season. So, yeah, I think for Manchester United, I think, Rashford is a very, very prominent name.
Can I just...
What about culture? Your culture is a really interesting point that he raised there about players. You've had it with Sancho. You've had it to an extent with Maguire. Now you've got this. And firstly, from what I understand, and you guys are pretty well informed, I would say too, I think they have to stick with Ten Hag because of the change at the top of the club. Structurally, they don't want too many changes at the same time. So whatever happens, as I understand it, the plan would be to at least go into the season with Ten Hag. But one of your favorite KPIs, extremely high, almost impossible to achieve high, which would mean that at some point, Ten Hag either wins everything and is amazing or doesn't and goes. But I would be concerned, and I'd be fascinated to hear from somebody at that club why this culture has existed within the dressing room that has not been comfortable. And is it directly from above? When you're unhappy on top, does it just filter down to the dressing room? Because I've read a lot of... Alan Shearer wrote something about this recently, which was really good.
I mean, time will tell what the issues are at Manchester United and what's going to happen. Fauzi, we'll bring you in for Manchester United in a short while. But we're going to have to use the tissue paper for the Liverpool fans who are commiserating over Jurgen Klopp's departure. So it's really upsetting in terms of him leaving the league. This is a neutral observation, right? But Rishi, to bring you in here, how are you reeling with the loss of Jurgen Klopp?
Well, now, first of all, I mean, the fans here are just so passionate, bro. I mean, like, you telling me about a story about, your wedding day and that big, Aguero moment. My wife doesn't even know I'm here, so I'm I play football more than I watch it. I just want to say, I watch a lot of Liverpool games, and I think it has to do with the character building that Klopp has brought to the city and also to the fans around the world over the past 9 years. Of being there.
It's creating that culture, right? That what John said.
Yeah, and it didn't happen overnight, right? It happened over years of building a young squad, of taking them forward, of having some really huge moments and then having some really disappointing ones as well. And the fans were always on that ride, And for some reason, there's Liverpool fans all around the world, not just 6 in, Singapore, right? Unfortunately or fortunately. So although it was emotional, I think what Klopp has done for football, what Klopp has done for the Premier League, and what Klopp has done for that city is immeasurable, beyond any KPI, beyond any stats that we can talk about. And I think that counts for something.
John, I think one thing that he mentioned earlier was the KPI factor again. And some detractors might say, it's only one Premier League. Why are you talking about him as though he's a Premier League great? Do you have something to say in that regard as to how he changed the Premier League since he's arrived to England?
Yeah, I think first things first. I was lucky enough to do a lot of work with Jurgen Klopp when Liverpool came to Singapore for the 2 summers in a row, and I found myself very often like in a room talking to a bunch of executives or even government ministers, and he was involved in a lot of talks about leadership and lessons to do with team building and building success and what have you. And from one year to the next, you could see he was drained. The job. So when he spoke about being empty. He's not lying. He genuinely, I think he's given all he's got to give. And the thing about it is, it's a good point, Deepan, because people look at it and they go, oh, trophies and what have you. But different coaches and different managers have different styles and also different impacts. He's all about emotion. So he emotionally galvanized a club and a city and a community and a global fan base, right? When you do that, you do more than just tick boxes. They could have won very easily another Premier League. Very easy. You get that close and miss out. Yeah. Should probably have been able to win another maybe Champions League, right? A goalkeeper let them down badly in a final. So that happens. So I think when it comes to those fine margins at the end of the day, I don't worry too much. I have him down as an absolute great. we don't have to classify him as a Premier League great because look at what he did in other competitions. But I would say, yeah, right up there with the greats of the last 30, 40 years or something like that. So I think Klopp has left a legacy. But the problem is, unlike Guardiola, who has a certain methodology about him, and you can see his so-called disciples working elsewhere, there's a pattern of continuity. Because Klopp was so much about his immense personality, how do you replicate that? So he's put things in place at the club, but it's going to need something special from his successor to get anywhere emulating that. And I would have a concern because I think Liverpool are going to be a roller coaster, as they have been towards the end of the season.
Yep.
Sorry, Rishi, you can use a tissue paper.
No. Hey, man, I did all my crying last night. It's okay. With the real Premier League trophy, by the way, guys.
Are they red and white ribbons?
Yeah, exactly.
We prepared for a different ending, but ultimately it's the blue ribbons that are on it.
No, I'm with John on this 100%, right? Because like there's no system for the new boss to come and implement immediately that can be a success model. You know, like how you said that Guardiola has kind of trained his disciples, like Arteta has now gone on and almost created his own version of that form at Arsenal as well. And you're right, it reminds you of certain great leaders. Like, when Arsenal had Wenger with them, there was a certain style of play which maybe could have been passed down. But Klopp doesn't have that. I think it's all about the emotion, you're right.
We've said KPI, I guess the framework is missing in terms of the takeover. Imran, just to bring you in here, JD raised an excellent point about what the future holds. Are you worried that what he says may come true? Is it downhill from here before you see any uphill?
Yeah, there will be a dip for sure. I mean, we saw it with Sir Alex, with Arsene Wenger as well. So there will be a dip. But I believe we are in a much better shape than the two teams when the two greats left, because Klopp has laid the foundation. I clearly remember Klopp saying that he didn't want to leave at a low point. So yes, the season didn't go according to plan, but at the start of the season, top 4 and 1 trophy, that's what I thought would be a successful season. Anything else was a bonus, and we played well, but it didn't end well. But as what Klopp said, us winning 1 is equivalent to winning 5 times. Okay, other fans make a banter out of this, but I feel Klopp really meant his each and every word, because he brought the belief to us. I've been a supporter for almost 30 years, and we got together for one man. I had the pleasure of meeting him twice in person. The aura that he brings you, as what John mentioned, you will run through brick walls for him. Yeah, so I believe there will be a dip. Arne Slot is going to come in, and Klopp did the right way. He belted out a song. That's very classy of him, and he endorsed his appointment. So top 4 and the rest we will see as time goes.
As a Manchester United fan, I'll be treading very carefully when the outgoing manager anoints and endorses the upcoming manager. But you never know how it'll pan out, right? I just want to ask you, in terms of Klopp and the 9 years he spent at the club, what's one memory you'll hold forever with him? In terms of a match, not personally meeting him.
Okay, the match, as what Klopp himself said it last night, it was the draw with Manchester City this season. I think we played a great game. Even Pep Guardiola was saying like, he didn't know what to do when he comes up against Klopp. He doesn't say that to anyone else. So they both raised the game, and that was one game I think we really played very well and should have gotten the 3 points. But there was one game. There are so many to pick from. It's really hard to pick just one.
Can I just add? Sorry, Imran.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
to me, actually, that night, that game was the turning point of the season for us. I don't know whether it was something psychological or it was almost as though like if we would have tipped the scales there, I think we would have had a very different last few games of the season. But I think not getting the points there, not getting 3 points there, when I think the neutrals who watching would have been like, oh man, this actually maybe should have been Liverpool's game, neutral fans or neutrals. I think that did a number on the entire team.
Rishi, in terms of turning points, I understand the 2005 Champions League final was a turning point in your Liverpool fandom. Perhaps you can share the story with the rest of the fans and those watching at home.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have all done silly things for football. Give me a yes.
Yes.
I love this already. Okay, now, so that night, as we all know, Istanbul, 05, it was a big night. We're a Liverpool fan. I was watching it in a friend's uncle's bungalow. He was so wealthy that he had some rare fish in a little fish tank. Okay, So at halftime, we're 3-0 down, and I blurt out, I think I was in the army at the time or whatever, and I said, after a couple of drinks, right, if Liverpool can win this game, I will kiss your fish. The uncle is like, it's a piranha, I'm like, yeah, Liverpool can win, I'll kiss her. So the night ended, right, with the penalty shootout. The last time I met this uncle was seeing him from the back with his sarong, dipping his hand into the fish tank, and I ran out. I never met the uncle after that. I don't know where he is. Uncle, if you are watching this, hope your trading and stock market career is going well.
Rumor has it he's with the fish coming to the
he's
studio
here.
right now.
Raushan, plenty of happy moments shared about Klopp from the Liverpool fans. I'm just keen to find out, how many of you in this room are quite happy that he's gone? I'm looking at Fauzi. Are you almost relieved that Klopp is gone now?
Actually, okay, to talk about Klopp, okay. I think as a Manchester United fan, we all know we are the biggest enemies with Liverpool, right? We all know that we hate the fans, they hate us. But we have to say that Klopp has been a fantastic manager. And when they mentioned just now, when he sang Arne Slot's new chant or something like that, that reminded me of when Sir Alex Ferguson said about David Moyes, right?
Your job now is to support.
So it's a sign of a great leader. So I think, we are all going to miss his antics. He's been a fantastic person.
You said something at the start. I just want to ask, psychologically, for the fans watching, why do you think there's such a huge disdain from Liverpool to Man U fans? Actually, I don't know the answer, but I'm just wondering why. I mean, as the neutrals or as everyone
Because
else?
you guys are annoying.
Okay. See, that's what we think also.
That's the thing,
So
right?
we should agree on it, right?
I'm just a parent watching this play out. That's all I'm saying.
I'm getting ready to manspread. No, I mean, look, we can be boring about this and talk about the historic rivalry within the UK in terms of the, the socio-industrial setup. But in Asia, and I'm lucky enough to have been in Asia basically all my life, you had a generational thing. Liverpool won everything. There was a generation. Then there was a period when Manchester United won everything. That's where it is. And there are so many households. You say that, City and United wife and what have you. I know so many couples. One supports Liverpool, one supports Manchester United.
My dad is a Liverpool fan.
Oh, wow.
My dad is a Liverpool fan as well. And I know the
crazy.
pain of watching Liverpool and United games with him at home. 7-0.
Plenty of talk about Manchester United and Liverpool established top 4 teams, and then there's the big 6. There's one team that has stealthily come to break this monopoly, and that brings me to George Gill, our Aston Villa fan. He's been to over 350 Aston Villa games. This is close to Birmingham, yet he's found time to come to Bradle. Firstly, how excited are you about the season and how it's panned out?
It's been a dream of a season for us. We are blessed to have Unai Emery. If you remember back to November the season before, we were getting relegated with Steven Gerrard. We were an awful team. We were
Quite a slip up, that one.
Exactly. And we were stinking out the league. And the owners then they interviewed a few candidates, but Emery was the right man for Aston Villa. And also Aston Villa, I think, is the right club for Unai Emery in terms of the owners have really they've given him the keys to the kingdom. And they've let him appoint every single member of staff that he wanted. And we've seen the success. I think we're still going under the radar a little bit in terms of, up until December, we were on the tails of Arsenal and Liverpool and Manchester City. But then the injuries caught up. And but it was interesting hearing him before the Palace game in the press conference, and he said, my target for next season is to win the league.
Wow.
My team of the season. All right? I'm the only neutral here. And I reckon there'll be other neutrals out there saying the same thing. Team of the season for me.
But do you think next season Aston Villa is going to go through the same thing as what Brighton went through this season? Because suddenly they had so many games and their performances dipped tremendously.
Fauzi's been stealing my notes.
That was going to be my
next question.
Fauzi, you want to...
I think what's really helped us this season is the experience of the Conference League. Because we had, when we were going toe-to-toe with Spurs in terms of for the battle for fourth, we'd already played 15 games more than them because of the conference games. And that rhythm of, Thursday night, Sunday, Thursday, slightly different now in the Champions League. But it's that similar cadence. So the players have got used to it. The fans have got used to it. Clearly, there's a lot of work to do over the summer. But I mean, one thing when you look at Unai and the team that he's built around him and the players, that you can see there's a steely focus there to make sure. And I think it's critical. You know, we saw this with Newcastle last season in terms of finishing fourth, but then not finishing top four again. You really it's that second season that's critical, because once you make it the second season, then you're set up for a dynasty or a period of time where you can challenge the bigger teams over a period of time.
I think, just quickly, just before it goes, you made the great point there about it helps to have a manager who relishes being in Europe. And it seems crazy to say this, but he loves being in Europe. He wants to be in Europe. He knows how to do it. You can't say that of many managers, and that was a real asset, because you get others who don't want to be there.
Yep.
And it interferes with the season. They don't know what they're doing, and the season falls apart. But I think it's very important. And also, I know we have fun with Unai Emery. He should be given so much respect. We'll joke about the accent. Imagine if we found fault with anyone speaking English as a foreign language who couldn't quite pronounce a certain word. That would be a thing. But he doesn't mind. He's just really good at what he does. Sorry, Newcastle, did Europe hurt you?
I think it did, because when John mentioned earlier about the cadence of playing Thursdays and Sundays, what it did for Newcastle was it didn't give Eddie Howe a chance to try new things on the training ground. So for game after game, he kept playing the same tactics, and it felt as if this season everybody knew what to do against Newcastle. Just sit deep, guard against the white forwards, and you're pretty much all set, right? And I think it showed in our results. But I wanted to say also, John, it was a sliding moment. It was a sliding doors moment, because when you guys were looking for a new manager after Steven Gerrard, it could very well have not been Unai Emery if he had chosen to come to Newcastle.
Exactly. So I think many people know that he'd actually agreed to join Newcastle.
Yeah, but he pulled out at the last minute.
Well, Newcastle had leaked it to certain people in the media, and so they started reporting it. But he was getting ready for Villarreal in a Champions League game. Yeah. And it upset him so much that he was put in a difficult position that he pulled out of that appointment. Yeah. But you're right, it was a sliding doors, right? I mean, we could have stuck with Steven Gerrard.
Yeah. No, actually, for the record, when Newcastle had approached Unai Emery, so it was either Unai Emery or maybe Eddie Howe as an outsider, I actually told friends everywhere that I wanted Unai Emery. He was a proven winner. He could do it in Europe. He relished being in Europe. And I think what happened to him and Arsenal was just a shame, but I thought he was a good manager, and I'm glad he's showing it now at Villa.
And I'm sure Unai Emery is getting a lot of eyeballs at the moment in terms of people looking at him for their club as well. But you talked about work needed to be done in the summer. I'm guessing you were talking about incomings. Are you at all worried about outgoings? Because I'm sure Ollie Watkins is high up the shopping list for various different clubs.
I would much rather be in the position now where we've got, every single player at Aston Villa Football Club has been improved by Unai Emery. These are not, he's only bought 3 or 4 players when you look at it. It's only Pau Torres, Diaby, Morgan Rogers, Marino in last January, and he was injured pretty much all of this season. But the whole thing he does is he improves every single player at the club, and that's just on the training. But he's a coach, right? And he's one of the best coaches out there. So I'm sure that we will probably lose a player or two. But at a club like Villa, that's what we have to do, right? We have to stick with the PSR, and I think that's a big challenge, right? For even Chelsea, Newcastle, ourselves this season. We'll probably see maybe a Luiz go, maybe a Ramsey go, maybe a John Duran go to Chelsea. But that will then give us the freedom to then, build 3 or 4 players. Look at Morgan Rogers. We signed him in January, and he came in, he made such an impact. Nobody would have believed that he would have put in those performances. And, I'm really excited to see what he'll do. But this is, again, with Monchi coming in, a very good friend of Unai's, knows exactly the kind of players they're looking for. I think that's what you should probably expect from Villa is Morgan Rogers type signings, maybe with some Spanish internationals thrown in. And then, the squad will be stronger overall. I think, the only 2 players I hope we don't sell, Emi Martinez is absolutely crucial for us. Just in
absolutely
terms of
annoying as well, some people
yes,
say.
yes. That's why he's crucial. Yeah. And Watkins, in the sense of you can't buy a striker who scores 19 goals and 13 assists, and he's only going to get better next season. He plays every single minute of every single game at 100 miles an hour. He's just a Terminator, right?
The thing about Villa, so you got to take a note.
So you're talking about buying players. Chelsea have to have their say, don't they? Right? Yeah.
The checkbook's here, I'll give it to you later. No, but the thing about Villa, you got to give them credit as well. They got players who've played European football already. So, in going to the stadiums and the atmosphere, that kind of season as well. Plus, you talk like Pau Torres, came from Villarreal as well. So you've got all that experience, and Emery is Mr. Europa, right? So more power to you guys. Nice to see another team coming into the top 6. Hope you stay.
We talk about incomings. There could be an incoming jersey in someone's wardrobe very soon. Segue. Time for our second giveaway. This is a bit of a harder question than the first one. I'll be surprised if someone gets it at the first hand. Plenty of fullbacks and wingers have whipped in crosses all season long, but only one player has surpassed the 300 mark when it came to crosses in the Premier League this season. Who is that player? Fauzi?
I'm just gonna make a wild guess. Is it from Luton? Doughty?
Oh, wow. I never saw that coming.
FPL
So
differential
Manchester United have won something this season. Fauzi Laili walks away with our second jersey.
I'm very impressed.
Did you leak the script to him? Because first he stole our talking point, now he knows the answer to the top question.
FPL differential.
FPL differential.
Well done, yes.
Manchester United need a new left back, and man, Doughty is awesome.
Good shout.
Yep.
Good shout. Yep.
All right, congratulations, Fauzi. You
New
walk
jersey,
away
yes.
with a jersey.
No Aston Villa jersey here, right?
Let's move on to Tottenham Hotspur, shall we? Nitin Nambiar, who's been sitting in that corner, flying the flag for the Lily Whites. Nitin, season started so brightly. Ange Postecoglou was giving the right sound bites, playing the right football, but then it sort of ended on a damn squib, I almost dare say. What's your assessment of the season?
Okay, so first and foremost, we lost Harry Kane, right? So that's a major part of the team that's gone missing. We've lost 30+ goals a season. How we started was absolutely fantastic. I thought Ange was a breath of fresh air. At the end of last season, you could see the Spurs fans were extremely toxic. It was a toxic atmosphere. Ange came in, he changed all of that. We went on a great run up till the Chelsea loss. The Chelsea loss, we had that Romero Ricard and Van der Veen, who I think has been our player of the season. I think his injury is the one that has really screwed us up the most this season. So when we lost Van der Veen, slowly, I think because of Ange's training demands as well, he demands pressing and all that. Players got tired. We slowly picked up injuries. We had like 14 first-team players out at one point. We saw us dip in form. And surprisingly, towards the end of the season, when all those players returned, we didn't get back to where we were. We just couldn't get the momentum again for whatever reason. But yeah, I have to say overall it's been a really positive first season for Ange. He's not spent the Harry Kane money. We have not replaced Harry Kane. This is a team that you'll hear from me throughout about our owners, basically.
I've known you for about 15 years. Yeah. That's all you ever say.
So yeah, it's just I'm more worried about the long-term plan for our team, because I've seen Pochettino at Spurs. He built the project exactly like what Arteta was doing. He wasn't back the way Arteta was. We made a Champions League final. He spoke about a rebuild that was needed. The rebuild is happening now, 5-6 years later under Ange. So I do worry about the ownership. Yeah, but it's been a good season. And Ange has been great. The football we played has been fantastic. Yeah, it's a positive start to the Ange era.
It's so good to hear that. Really is good to hear that. And you know, I hate to give a Spurs fan the advice of be like Arsenal. Be like Arsenal. Trust the process. The fall-off was always going to happen. Initially, it looked as if Kane wasn't missed at all, right?
Yep.
Kane wasn't missed at all. They were just doing brilliant stuff. But the way you're absolutely right, the way they train, the way he prepares his team, without getting substantial input in terms of new legs and new fresh signings, there was always going to be a dip. The problem now lies with the reaction to Ange's comments about the culture at the club and the mentality. That's the only thing, but he'll say it like it is. And if that's what it turns out to be, that undoes him, there would be a pity. Because if they stick with him, his track record wherever he's been, whether it be in Scotland, Japan, Australia, track record would suggest he'll come good.
John, I also need to get your opinion on the lower half of the table. I think a lot of conversation about the upper half of the table. Ultimately, it's 3 teams who went down who just came up. And of course, the question will be, is there a widening gap now between the English Premier League and the Championship? Is that a cause for concern? How do you rectify it?
I think you'd have to say this was the worst set of promoted clubs that we've ever seen. I think statistically, it's a fact in terms of what they amassed. Sheffield United, in terms of scoring the fewest goals and conceding the most, probably, I would say, the worst team that we've seen. Burnley were immensely disappointing. Luton had a couple of moments. But no, I think they were always going to struggle. It was just the nature of those 3 clubs coming up. Now, if you look at what's going to be coming along, and the pedigree of the two that have already got promoted and then the two that are going to be involved in the playoff, well, you've got fairly recent Premier League experience there, and that counts for something, even though there is a drop-off. So to answer your question, though, I would say guardedly, it shouldn't be as bad next year. We might find a situation where at least one survives. But broadly speaking, yes, you're right. There is a gulf that exists. Look at the quality of the players that can now come into even mid to lower tier clubs. If you can go out and you can buy a Dawood or someone like that, if you can go out and buy a Justin Kluivert, I mean, wow. You know, you can go and grab players like this, Ansu Fati. Yeah, okay, we'll have a go there. And then suddenly these teams come up from the Championship and they're going, well, we can't buy them. You know, we've pretty much got to go with what we've got unless we do a Nottingham Forest. So, yeah, I think we are going to see that gap widening, but maybe not as soon as next season.
I think the challenge will be to find a Leicester or Ipswich fan if and when we do this next season. It's time to bring in Terence, who's the Newcastle fan. It says here you've won 2 football quizzes, yet you haven't got any of the trivia correct today, but that's okay.
I'm giving others a chance, you see. I've won it twice. I'm good.
Let's talk about the season gone by. Was it a season to remember or a reality check in terms of Newcastle's burgeoning ambitions?
I think the majority of fans Newcastle fans will feel like it's a season to forget. Considering we finished 4th the season before. But I've also told a lot of friends that for Newcastle to finish 8th to 10th this year, I think will be an achievement for us. I believe Newcastle overachieved last year. That coupled with some of the top 4, the big 4 clubs not having a very good season. We've had Liverpool dropping out of the Champions League. We've got Chelsea dropping out as well. So there was that chance that Newcastle took. But I think for me, this was a good season overall. Could have been better if not for the injuries. And also, we've had a good run in the Champions League. We gave a good shot. But on camera, I just want to say I do wish that Man United gave us their group if they were going to screw up their Champions League group. All right? We were in a group of death and we were struggling every game. And we're like, oh, how great would it be if we could play a Copenhagen or we could play a Galatasaray? Might not win it, but you know what? Maybe we'll have a better chance.
Where's the door?
You're such a nice guy. You're such a nice guy. What about the owners? Yeah, I would sit here and say, start of the season, I said Newcastle and Villa are going to be vying. You know, in the end, you're quite a long way apart. I would consider, if I was the owner of Newcastle, that a disappointing season.
Yeah.
And now you've got to second guess how they will react, and that would concern me a little bit right now, because I think you're absolutely right. There was always going to be a bit of pressure and a bit of strain in terms of resources, but I don't think that cuts it. And I think they'll feel that this was a poor season.
Probably in the mid to long term, we wouldn't cut it. But if we look at the squad that we had this year, and I think we go on to like what John had mentioned about coaches improving players. If you look at the bulk of the Newcastle squad, it's still almost the same squad that got promoted to the Championship a few seasons back. We still have Matt Ritchie on the bench, Paul Dummett on the bench, and when the two of them come on, I just pull my hair out and go, oh no, these guys again.
That explains your hairstyle.
Yeah, exactly, yes. Try to keep it as high as possible so I can't reach it, you know. But yeah, I mean... oh, sorry, I ruffled a few feathers there. Yeah, no, but as coming back to this, I think Newcastle lacked the squad depth that a lot of the bigger teams have. And I think it showed when we struggled to put out a good team. And if you look at Newcastle, the midfield trio of Bruno Guimaraes and Sean Longstaff have played almost every game. And we've had to promote a 17-year-old to come in and play, albeit him being a revelation, Luis Mali. But, you know, being in this position where we have to put a 17-year-old on, I think it speaks about the lack of depth in the team. And hopefully, you know, that gets addressed in the upcoming transfer window.
You talk about addressing it in the market, though. I think a lot of rumours have been about that FFP and whether you guys can hold on to the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Isak. Does it concern you that, you know, you might have to sell before you buy? And if I can put you on the spot, of all the players that you have at the moment, if you could let one go to get incomings in, who would you let go?
I'm also of the belief that we are a club where we have to sell to grow. So to me, if someone came in with £100 million offer for Bruno G, I would say, please, he's all yours. £100 million right now.
There you go.
Yeah, you can have him. You can have him.
If you got 100 million.
You know what? If you guys offered us, if you guys offered us 100 million and Kelvin Phillips, I'll say yes, I'll take it.
Kelvin Phillips.
Yeah, Kelvin Phillips. Yeah, I still think there's a player in there. It's just not been
a
easier.
Newcastle player, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, look, I feel that we definitely got to sell with in the era that we are in. So if we had to sell Bruno Guimaraes or even Alex Isak for 100 million, I'll say yeah. We'll just rebuild.
It sounds like the two of you are actually making a deal here, you know, now. Like the way y'all are talking, like, yeah, okay, come, give me 100 million, yeah, okay, no problem.
Arab money, Arab.
That's how they do it in the Middle East, eh?
That's why this guy was late today. He was downloading the cash from the machine.
Actually, John, jokes aside, in terms of FFP, in terms of PSR, we've seen the teams take a hit, Everton and Nottingham, namely, in this season gone by. Do you think that's going to change the landscape of how transfers are carried out in the coming season?
Well, there's two ways to answer that. Firstly, the examples you quoted there, they were banged to rights. And we saw it happening. When Everton were going through what they did and just consistently bringing in directors of football, coaches, managers, players, you thought this is going to end badly. It has to. Similarly with Forest, with that incredible spend that we saw there, you thought, this doesn't look sustainable. So I wasn't at all surprised. No one was surprised about that, which is why I think parallels with City have to be very careful because they're quite different things. But to your point about how it impacts it, we were talking before the show, weren't we, when we came on, John, about this? It was the problem you're going to have is this new rule is going to distort the way that clubs evolve. Because effectively what you do is you look at it and you say, right, okay, I've got a player, and you're going to look at what the value of that player is. And then you're going to say, okay, is it worth selling that player? So a club might develop a young player, which costs them theoretically nothing, but then there's a value attached to that player. So they'll sell that player. Whereas if they have a player who they brought in for a certain amount of money and they're sort of mid-20s or something like that and they have a certain valuation, even if they haven't played well for the club, it's going to be very hard to move that player on because it won't really affect the balance sheet that well. So I'm slightly concerned that people will think it impacts work in the market, but actually it won't. It'll impact the long-term development of football clubs. So I'm not a big fan of these rules in the way that they're actually couched at the moment. But that's a long-winded way of saying, yes, it is going to impact what's happening. You only have to look at January. What was the difference between January previous year and January this year? They went from sort of 800 million to 40 million spent or something stupid like that. So I think there is a distortion, yeah.
The rules have to change, right? I mean, you look at Villa this season. Jacob Ramsey, who was probably one of our best players the last season, he was injured for the England under-21s this summer and never really came back. Now, to John's point there, because he's got a net book value of 0, he's being linked with Newcastle, with every other club, 50 million. But surely it can't be right for a club to sell one of their most promising young players in order to meet a PSR requirement, right? In terms of that, there's something very wrong if that's what the player doesn't want to leave, the club don't want to sell that player. It's a local player who's and normally these players are you build teams around players like that to have that connectivity with the fans. So I mean, hopefully at some point this changes because it can't be sustainable.
And then to replace him, do you then go into a market and spend 35, 40 million on a player who's supposedly a proven player, but actually turns out not to be what Aston Villa wants because you've lost a player who's come up through the ranks. So that's the distortion that I'm talking about here. And when you bring a Monchi or someone along as well, you've got a slight problem there as well because, that distorts clubs as well. You get somebody bringing in a stream of players. So I think it could be, I think the rules need changing.
All right. Now, if we planned this show several months ago, I think when we came to Chelsea, might be a bit of a negative talk, but since then, Chelsea's season has turned around a fair bit. Kelvin, I've got to bring you in on this one. We talk about a lot about spending, and it's rightly so that we come to you. Given all the investment that happened in the summer, what were your expectations, and have they been met?
You see, the thing is, we kind of took a Thomas Tuchel, Frank Lampard-ish Champions League winning squad, got rid of 90% of them, kept Chilwell and Reece James, and brought in a whole influx of potential talent, playing money ball basically with these players, right? Might be £1 billion spend. That's the amount, we can't help it. Initially, I thought it's going to be another 12 season. I would just stay there and thereabouts. The first 10 games, horrendous. Formations all over the place. Players are all over the place. You didn't get that. But as I think Poch kind of trusted the players, kind of embedded them in their positions and stick to that position, we've been seeing the best of Caicedo as well. I think the team is starting to gel, is starting to progress. The youth is, they're the youngest squad still in the Premier League. So for me, it's, it's still a lot of potential. I honestly didn't want the league to end. It was a good feeling the past, I think personally, the game against United, when we beat United 4-3 at Stamford Bridge, that kind of changed. Which one? Yeah, I think that changed. The City draw was a false dawn. But that game in United, we kind of rode on that momentum, barring the hammering by Arsenal. But yeah, I think it's been a really good season for Chelsea.
I never thought a Chelsea fan would end the season on a high note.
Yeah.
If you'd looked just a few weeks ago, not even months ago, a few weeks ago, you'd have thought it's going to be a tale of doom, and they've basically virtually not improved on last season. But instead, listen to this. Listen to this optimism. And this is the Chelsea. The change in Chelsea, the very nature of that club from, say, 5-6 years ago is just enormous. I like the manager, and I like the signs that I'm seeing, but I still don't understand the spending.
Yeah, and the thing is, we can't hire and fire managers anymore as well. You know? We could do that back in the day, because you think about it, the spine of Petr Cech, John Terry, Lampard, and Drogba. That was the spine of the team that you could switch and swap any manager, will still win you games. Now with the spending and how we've gone on doing it, I think we recently bought a 17-year-old Brazilian talent as well. How we're doing it, I don't know yet. We might be another part of your alleged club as well, sooner or later. But, you know, to me, the spending has been the only question mark I have is still on Enzo. We spend big money on him, but the team is playing better without him. So that's a bit of a
I think they burned him
mark.
out. I think they asked too much of him,
Yeah.
you know, to be honest with you. Just a quick question for the consultant here. Chelsea have actually forced a change in the rules as well, haven't they? Because what they did was with that big spend, they were, what's the word, amortizing. They were spreading the payments out over a long period of time. So it's now been affected, isn't it? They've turned around and gone, you can only do 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. So I think you could be right to be a bit concerned about the way things might turn out.
As long as it's point deduction, I guess that's the only thing we can hope for. Don't drop us to a league or something more severe than that, right? So, yeah.
It's interesting how teams are being forced to be very creative, but play within the rules, and then these loopholes are being closed because you've got property transactions happening, like Chelsea selling their hotel to a related party, selling their training ground. I mean, the rules need to be simplified, right? So everybody knows where they stand. You know, if owners want to put money in and there's no debt on the club or the fans, then they should be allowed to do that, right? To a certain extent, I think, and maybe cap it at the club that's got the biggest revenue, so then it's a fair level for everybody, right? Cap it at Man City's level for everybody, and everybody can go at that level, as long as there's no debt on the football club.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make. Imran, you want to add something?
Yeah, I read an article recently that they were saying that is it okay to lose a key player like Isak or Gordon, or then to less 4 or 6 points? These players can win back the points by themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that a league has suddenly become one where points are being taken off. You've got stars and asterisks again.
Yeah.
I do not like that. The competition's distorted.
Exactly.
And having worked in production as a graphics operator, that's a nightmare as well to do, so I can assure you. Now, more often than not, we save the best for the last. In this case, we've saved the worst for the last. That brings me to Manchester United. Deepan, take it away.
Yeah, we've got Fauzi, of course. He's already spoken on the show.
You see the negative stuff again.
You want to pass him the tissue?
Yeah, I think I should, right? He's a singer, as we all know, an actor, and also recently an entrepreneur. But despite all that, he still wakes up at 3 a.m. to watch United lose. more often than not. Fauzi,
Yeah, man.
the question is, how tough has this season been for you? And are you ready in camp? Are you Ten Hag out? Ten Hag stay? How are you feeling?
To be honest with you, I am not sure about Ten Hag staying, even if we win the cup, because it feels like the new owners are trying to start from scratch. It feels like it, and like if you want to do a total rebuild, I think you got to really start from the manager and then to the players and stuff like that. So, and that's the worrying part about us being a Manchester United fan, because like we as fans also are not sure whether we want him to stay or do we want him to, you know, give him another maybe half a season, probably till January, and see whether because he's been using this excuse that, okay, there's too many injuries, blah, 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 blah.
So,
but
sorry about that. You say excuse.
Yes.
So do you buy it? Do you think the injuries have played a major role?
The thing is, yes, of course, the injuries definitely played a major role. But as a manager, I feel like if you are given these kind of challenges and you don't have certain players to play the way that you want to play, then that's where your expertise as a manager comes in, where you have to make some changes in terms of tactics, right? And that's where we lack, because I feel like Ten Hag has been really adamant about playing a certain kind of way, even though we don't have the players for it. And that's crazy.
Well, he tried to buy the players. That's the worst thing he did, was getting involved in the transfer process and getting the wrong players. And now he's not allowed to be involved.
Yeah.
Which is a positive.
Yes, yeah, I guess so. And I think like I've never seen any wingers defend so much as our wingers have done throughout the season. I don't see when I actually watched Jadon Sancho playing at Dortmund during the semi-finals, I was like, he doesn't have to defend that much. And why is that so? It's because of the tactics, right? So I don't know. Maybe he wants to create a culture, probably, and he has to stick with it, and maybe that's an agreement between him and the new owners and whatsoever. But yeah, I think I'm still not sure about.
Yeah. The interesting point about injuries that he brought up, and I think it's something that Newcastle suffered as well this season, right? What I want to know from the fans is, do you count injuries as a strong reason for underperformance in a season? Do you feel then that that's where the manager should blood in some youths or perhaps use a reserve players? Would you accept injuries as a reason for not having a good performance in the season?
I would say yes, but also no, because at the end of the day, I think managers trust a certain set of players. They trust the players that they work with week in, week out, and to them, it might be a bit difficult for them to change. But as a fan from the outside looking in, you definitely want to give a chance to people from the youth team, people from the academy. Give it a go and see how it turns out. Because if that didn't happen, we wouldn't see Luis Mali, light up the Premier League of sorts. We would still be, So I think it's a yes and no to that question.
Jod?
I mean, there's something that's really happened this year to all clubs. I mean, if you think about all of our clubs here, probably only Arsenal and maybe Man City had fitness throughout the year. Every other one of our clubs had an injury crisis at some point, right? Like Villa had 3 ACLs. We had about 6, 7 other first team players out at one point. Newcastle well documented, Chelsea well documented, Spurs well documented, Liverpool. And I think, it's all that injury time. But looking at what Unai Emery did, I think this is where managers really earn their money. And you look at Villa, we changed how we played 3 or 4 times in the season because of injuries. Whereas maybe if I look at some of the other managers, they stuck with their tactics and they stuck with their approach, even though maybe they didn't have the players, they didn't have the fitness, and they weren't able to adapt. Which is, I think, where you really figure out who's, Guardiola will adapt where he needs to, Klopp would adapt where he needs to. And that's what Emery does, right? He adapts game to game.
And it feels like Ange Postecoglou is one of those managers who just sticks to his guns. 9 men on the pitch, 20 players in the injury table.
Game of the season for me, that one, by the way.
I love that, by the way. I love that.
Is that
game.
what you want from your manager, or do you want some form of changes as and when it calls for it?
I would like, if we're winning 2-1 and it's the 87th minute, I would like us to hold back a bit. I think at those times it would make sense. But
Look, mate.
Yeah. I mean, what are you talking
You'd
about?
have something to say about that.
That's weak mentality, mate. You got weak mentality. Loser mentality.
By the way, Nitin is on Twitch, so you can check him out and see if he sticks true to his words in terms of holding the fort at the 80th minute when you're leading.
But I really respect that how we play, and I appreciate it. I enjoy good football. But one thing I like to say about how we play, the number of hamstring injuries we've had this season, everybody's had a hamstring injury, and it concerns me because we don't have a big squad. So I hope the manager, it's his first season, maybe he's getting a feel of the players, but I hope he can tailor the training and stuff like that to maybe try and avoid these injuries because, like I mentioned, Van der Ven, 2 hamstring injuries this season, out for about 10 weeks. Big miss. So we can't have misses like that. We don't have the squad to deal with it.
He's also the fastest player in the league.
Yeah, he's
so
rapid.
So hamstring's going to be an issue there, I
job
think.
has it almost.
Yeah, but the style of football doesn't help. Right?
Of course, it doesn't help, especially for United as well. I think he has played a part in the number of injuries that we've had. And circling back to United, though, does the Premier League need a successful Manchester United? I know you've been asked the question before.
It's just a loaded question.
He's waited the whole hour to play that
This
card.
bench needs to look back at that sofa right now and just see where his line of questioning is coming
I
from.
would like to plead the fifth
I don't
amendment. It was
care.
not
We
part
don't
of-
need a successful United team.
I think TV shows need a dramatic United. And the last thing I'll say, and I've said plenty on this one, is that one of the problems with Manchester United is when you talk about like changing things, every time you try and change something, if there's a bad defeat at United, it's amplified so much more than if it was at Brighton or somewhere else. So you don't have the luxury as a coach or even a management structure at a club to build something. There's always this pressure because United are United. Better or worse, Liverpool fans jump on them, the media jump on them, their own fans jump. It's always amplified, and that's what's made it so hard over the last few years. And that's why I think they'll stick with Ten Hag for the time being, make it difficult in terms of the KPI, but they desperately want some kind of continuity.
My opinion about this is every league needs a team to hate. And I feel Manchester United is a team to hate because of all our successes that we had previous years, right?
I think Manchester United is a team to hate across all 5 leagues. It's almost, that's how much hate the club gets.
Raushan, I've had plenty of fun today, canvassing opinions from every one of you. And I think you guys had fun as well, giving your opinions. And speaking of fun, if you're watching us on YouTube, as promised, we have one other jersey to give away. All you have to do is submit your answer to the question on the Straits Times. And the question is pretty simple, so just head over to the Instagram page at Straits_Times_sports. And the question is, which goalkeeper made the most saves in the 2023-24 Premier League season? Remember, head over to Instagram and look for the Straits Times Sports page. You'll find a post pinned to the top where you can submit your answer.
Once again, a huge thank you to all the fans as well as John who turned out today to discuss the Premier League season gone by. We've hoped you have had as much fun as we have. The conversation does not end here. As we established, this has been an overlap between the Straits Times Hard Tackle and Money FM 89.3 Sports Minutes. So be sure to continue to support our podcast and we may just reunite in time for it to come home. Thank you.
Nice.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
Did it. Cheers, guys.